Yeah, shall we start? So welcome you once again to this event from Bengal Business Council and Calcutta University. Let's get directly to the point and let's start right from the beginning.
So before that, dear friends, first of all, profusely apologize to all of you to keep you waiting in this winter. I just could not avoid visit to Delhi for some very, very important work this morning, and then my flight got delayed by more than an hour. So I'm really sorry to have kept you, and I'm also not appropriately tired for this evening, but I try and make up by whatever I am asked, and I hope that I'll bring some value to you. Thank you very much. Sorry, apologize.
Right, so let's start right from the beginning. Mr. Harsh Neotia, out of college at the age of 21, 22. Did you inherit your father's business or did you start something of your own?
Well, interestingly, it's very not so easy to answer that question in one word, one line. Every business that I presently run was started by me. But having said that, the initial capital, the goodwill of the family, the blessings, the learnings all came from the family. So there's a lot of inheritance. May not be in the specific business because one of our biggest business was the Ambuja Cement. And I was privileged to work there for about 12, 13 years in the Ambuja Cement. I was heading their Eastern India operations from the year 1996 to 2006. But then the family decided to divest our interest to Wholesome. So that's when I lost that family kind of business that I had sort of got into, and then rebuilt my involvement in real estate and hospitality and healthcare. So primarily these three areas that we are working on now were started by me.
Fantastic. So we can say that you are a startup man. The startup term nowadays has become a very, very known word. Everybody is opening a company and they're saying it's a startup. But back when you started opening up your real estate business, I think the scenario at that time was quite different. So how did you suddenly feel that this is an area which is going to be a boom in the later years?
So startup would be a little bit of a wrong statement for me because I come from a business family. I had the resources of a business family. I had the ecosystem of a business family. So a lot of the startups that we talk about are young entrepreneurs who come maybe from professional backgrounds or people who are doctors, lawyers, or maybe sometimes from smaller towns there are people who are not had any family member who has been involved in any kind of significant activity earlier. So that startup is a much tougher journey. My journey, I would have to confess, has not been that tough because I got the launch pad of my family.
Okay, but still my question remains, you diversed into real estate, which I don't know at that time how lucrative it was, but over the years now I think you have been into this for the last 40 years, and now I think this is an area which is just booming. So as an entrepreneur, we always feel that if you can take the right decision at the right time, that is going to get profits for you. So did you actually think that real estate in the state of West Bengal, the way you have changed the perspective, would come? Did you have a gut feeling like that as a businessman? Or what? Because you said your family business was something else, and then you decided to get into this. So what made you get into this?
So, you know, in life, I've often felt that stories are written after the event is over. But when I look back, and Joyanta Roy is here, his father, who was a very dear well-wisher of our family and also a dear friend of the family. When we both set up the joint sector company, at least I can say for myself that I had no idea what I was getting into. To tell you the honest truth, the first time I set up a house which was in Chaurangi Lane, small building of about 18,000 square feet on Chokatha Jomi, that was in way back in 82 to 84. I was still in college and I was in the third year of in Xavier's. And I used to do college in the morning and daytime I would be working at the site. That just happened by chance. That land happened to belong to a friend of my father's who was trying to sell the land and he could not find somebody to buy it. So somebody mentioned to him that why don't you make a block of apartments, it might be easier to sell those. And he was sitting at home one day and talking to my father about it, and I happened to be sitting there. I was all of 21 years old at that time. And my father said, you waste your time most of the day because you have got morning college. Why don't you make his building? So I said, okay, this is not a bad idea. I had no idea about making a building. Our family had never made a building before that. I think they made one small house, which was the house in which we lived, but that was in the 50s. But we are talking of 80s. So 30 years, they had not built anything in terms of a house. Of course, we were building our cement plant at that time in Gujarat. And one option I had was to go there. So I thought this is a good idea. If I cling on to doing this, I can stay in Calcutta, which was, for me at that time, a very nice thing to do because all my friends were here. And so I just took up that responsibility and things just fell in place. It was not so easy. There was a lot of learning in the process. And that's how the first building came up. And then I think it was 1993 or 92 when a small advertisement came out of the government asking for participants to apply for joint sector housing. And amongst various companies, Peerless and us and I think Bijon Nag's IFB and TC Pal, and a few other companies, we all applied. I think there were 12, 13 companies. And 5 companies were shortlisted. Fortunately, the ranking given by the committee that time was number 1 ranking was given to Peerless, number 2 ranking was given to our company, number 3 to etc. to other companies. And the government decided that they will do 2 joint sector companies so that they can have 2 experiences. And so luckily, even though we were not 1, we were 2, we got selected. So 2 companies were set up. And that set off my journey. Believe me, when I was doing my first project, my sole interest was that যে কোনো ভাবে এই কাজটা ভালো করে যদি নেবে যায় এটাই যথেষ্ট, এর থেকে আর কি হবে পরে বড় কোম্পানি হবে না হবে এটা এই কোনো চিন্তা আমার মাথায় ছিল না। এবং একটাই ছিল যে আমরা because this is the first time I was going to do low income middle income housing, and I had only heard of it in a textbook and I had heard of it in some literature, but I had never understood what a low income housing and ওই ক্রস সাবসিডি হবে এটা কিভাবে হবে এবং কিভাবে ওটাকে বিক্রি করা হবে। And obviously we were partnering the government, so it had to be totally transparent and clean, and we knew, of course things have changed a lot, but in those days there was a lot of cash dealing in real estate and we had to go completely clean in this, and therefore which is a very good thing that happened, frankly. But it did cause a lot of concern যে কিভাবে হবে এটা। কিন্তু I think we set off with an intent to try and do the best we can, and তারপরে তো বলতেই হবে যে মানুষের আশীর্বাদ এবং ভগবানের আশীর্বাদ ছাড়া তো হতো না। যতই মানুষ চেষ্টা করুক, finally there has to be some good luck and some blessings. তো ওটা পেলাম, সে কারণেই একটা ব্যবসা দাঁড়িয়ে হলো।
Fantastic. That's the man speaking, so humble, so down to earth. কিন্তু ওই আপনি যে বলেন না আপনিও বাঙালি, এখান থেকে প্রুভ হলো আপনার যে প্রথম প্রজেক্টটাই বিএলএস এর সঙ্গে একজন বাঙালির সঙ্গে আপনি একসঙ্গে করলেন একটা প্রজেক্ট, আই থিঙ্ক দ্যাট
আমরা
স্পিকস আ লট।
একসঙ্গে করলাম না, একই সময় আমাদের ওরা
ওরাকেই দেওয়া হলো প্রজেক্টটা।
হ্যাঁ মানে ওরা একটা আলাদা প্রজেক্ট করলো, আমরা একটা আলাদা।
আচ্ছা, আমরা ছোটবেলা থেকে শুনে আসি যে মারওয়াড়িদের রক্তে ব্যবসা আছে। তারা ক্লাস 11-12 পাশ করার পর থেকেই গদিতে গিয়ে বসে পড়ে, ব্যবসা বুঝে যায়, তার থেকে আমরা টার্মটা বুঝি বানিয়া বলে ডাকে। তো এটা তো অনেক ডেফিনেশন আছে, বাট আপনি কিরম করে ডিফাইন করবেন যে মারওয়াড়িদের কেন বানিয়া বলা হয়, কিংবা তাদের কি সত্যি রক্তে ব্যবসা আছে? আপনাদের কি কौन से गेहूं का आटा खाते हैं आप लोग?
আমার মনে হয় এরকম কিছু না। দেখুন, এইসব মাহল আর পরিবেশের ব্যাপার আছে। আমার যে যেমন যার পরবরিশ যেমন একটা পরিস্থিতির মধ্যে হয়, সেরকম অনেকটা প্রভাব পড়ে মানুষের চিন্তার উপরে, মানুষের আচরণের উপরে, মানুষের ফোকাসের উপরে। আমি যবে থেকে জন্মেছি, আমার বাড়িতে ব্যবসা ছাড়া অনেক কথা হতো, কিন্তু ব্যবসা হোক কথা হতো। সকাল থেকে রাত অবধি কোনো না কোনো প্রসঙ্গে ব্যবসা চলে আসতো। কারণ বাবা, জ্যাঠা, I lived in a joint family and they were all in business. So there was always discussion of something to do with business in breakfast or dinner. Fortunately, my family was also deeply involved with arts. তো আমাদের বাড়িতে সাহিত্যিক, গান বাজনার মানুষ, আর্টিস্ট, এরাও খুব প্রচুরভাবে আমার ইয়াঙ্গার এজ থেকে আমি সুযোগ পেয়েছি তাদের সঙ্গে, মানে তাদের আশীর্বাদ পাওয়া এবং টু interact with them right since I was a little boy. In fact, it used to irritate me because in a joint family, you know, there is a system, and now it's not like today when the children will say, Dad, what will I do? I'm going with my friends, I'm not, this is very boring. এসব তো আমরা বলতে পারতাম না সে সময়। বাবা বলতো যে সন্ধেবেলায় অমুক টমুক আসছেন, তুমি চলে আসবে, তো চুপ করে যেতে হতো। আর আমি ভাবতাম যে এই ভগবান, এইসব আর্টিস্ট আসবে, কে গান গাওয়ার লোক আসবে, আমি কি করব? আমার সে সময় ইচ্ছে থাকতো যে ক্লাবে গিয়ে খেলবো, একটু সুইমিং করব, বন্ধু বান্ধবদের সঙ্গে যাব, কিন্তু এখানে বাড়ি থেকে একটা ডাক পড়েছে যে যেতে হবে। তো obviously we didn't have the choice to say no, so we were there. But কিন্তু when I look back today, I think that was a great blessing, because এই যে প্রভাবটা পড়েছে আমার উপরে, সেটা হতে পারে খানিকটা আমার খুব চাওয়াতে পড়েনি, ইট ওয়াজ অলমোস্ট circumstantially came to me, but it has influenced the way I look at life. It has influenced my work, it's influenced some of the artistic aspects of my work also. So I think they have really benefited. So এই সব দিক থেকে যদি আমি মনে করি, it's all about mahal. The thing, if you look at it, there are some great luminaries whose pictures are here. There are many great entrepreneurs sitting in this August gathering here. We've had a huge tradition of entrepreneurship in Bengal. It's been probably leading in the country. Probably at some stage the priority shifted to areas of artistry, areas of literature, areas of philosophy, and the focus of the people of the state shifted in that direction. So the younger generation that grew up probably got a very wide exposure in literary pursuits and intellectual pursuits, but not so much in commercial pursuits. And that changed the atmospherics to some extent. I don't think it's necessarily bad, frankly speaking. Should everyone in the world be only businessmen? And that's also not necessarily the only thing to do. So I think finally it's about each one of us finding our own space and our own choice. Sometimes I see inside me not just an entrepreneur, sometimes I see a little artistic streak, Thankfully, one of my children, my daughter, is a trained filmmaker. Hopefully, she'll be making films. I'm very proud of it. It's somebody says that, why didn't you train her to do business? I said, I'm happy that she chose to do what she wants to do. My son, of course, is more interested in business, so that's also good, because somebody should have been interested in business. If they both went in different directions, that would have left me a little alone. But I have never enforced them to do something that I was doing. And I think that's the way, if all of us look at it, we'll find great entrepreneurs also emerging here.
I think that's very important যেটা মিস্টার নেওটিয়া এক্ষুনি বললেন, মাহল। কারণ এখানে অনেক ফ্যামিলিজ, অনেক লোক এমন বসে আছেন যারা সবাই ট্রেডিশনালি ফ্যামিলি বিজনেসের সঙ্গে অ্যাসোসিয়েটেড। তো ওনারা যেরকম বললেন ছোটবেলার থেকেই ওনার বাড়িতে কিছু না কিছু ডিসকাশন হতোই ব্যবসা নিয়ে, তো উনি নোয়িংলি আননোয়িংলি এভরিথিং এফেক্টেড। সো আই থিঙ্ক দ্যাট ইজ দ্য মহল। আপনি আর্টিস্টিক যেটা বলছেন, ডেফিনেটলি ইন অল ইয়োর প্রপার্টিজ এন্ড অল ইয়োর থিংস দ্যাট উই সি, উই ডেফিনেটলি সি দ্যাট আর্টিস্টিক সাইড অফ ইট। আরেকটা খুব ইন্টারেস্টিং জিনিস আমরা জেনারেলি মারওয়াড়ি গুজরাটিদের মধ্যে দেখি, টু টেল ইউ আ স্টোরি, আমি আমার এক রিয়েল এস্টেট মারওয়াড়ি বন্ধুকে একবার জিজ্ঞেস করেছিলাম যে আই হ্যাভ আ আইটি কোম্পানি, কি আমার পুনেতে দুটো কি চারটে আইটির এই স্কিল সেটের লোক লাগবে। এন্ড ইমিডিয়েটলি দ্যাট গাই টোল্ড মি, হ্যাঁ তো हमारा চিন্তা करने का बात नहीं है, हम अभी करा देते हैं। তো আই ওয়াজ লাইক, আমি তোমাকে এত বছর ধরে চিনি, কিন্তু তোমার যারা আইটি ব্যবসা আছে আমি জানতাম না। তো বলে হ্যাঁ হ্যাঁ তো করা দেতা হूं, করে একজনের সঙ্গে ইন্ট্রোডিউস করিয়ে দিল। পরে আমি বুঝলাম ইজ জাস্ট আ ফ্রেন্ড, বাট দ্য ওয়ে হি টোল্ড ইট কি এটাও আমার কোম্পানি, ইউ নো। সো এই যে বন্ডিংটা, কমিউনিটি বন্ডিং, উইচ আই কাম টু মাই নেক্সট কোয়েশ্চেন, আপনাদের যে ব্যবসাটা আপনাদের এর মধ্যে হয়, এই যে কমিউনিটি হেল্প যেটা আছে, সেটা কতটা স্ট্রং? এটা কি সত্যি আমরা যতটা শুনি, কিংবা যদি সত্যি কোনো সময় কোনো একজন মারওয়াড়ি বিজনেসম্যানের একটা প্রবলেম হয়, দি আদার কমিউনিটি মেম্বার্স অ্যাকচুয়ালি কাম টুগেদার টু সাপোর্ট হিম, be it in business or in personal life?
So this used to be extremely strong, and it used to be a pillar of the Marwari tradition, Marwari family tradition. And I have heard about so many stories about this from my parents, grandparents, great-grandparents. But as probably things change, it is probably not that strong anymore. People are a little more isolated and little more insular, I would say, in that sense. People don't reach out the way they used to, at least as far as I can understand from what I have heard so far. But having said that, one thing I will definitely say, I often am asked this question, that why does Bengal have the perception that it does, which is obviously not very flattering, when all of us know that the reality may not be all perfect, but it is certainly not bad as the perception. And I say this, one of the reasons is that we ourselves are probably a race or a type of people that criticize ourselves. Maybe sometimes we do it with the hope that we are trying to improve, but we are leaving unnecessarily a confusion in the mind of others. Now, just take my own personal instance. My forefathers left Rajasthan 120 years ago. We have a small ancestral Haveli there, but I have absolutely no family that I can recognize out there. I have no link with the place. I never go to Rajasthan for family reasons. I go there, of course, for many other reasons, including tourism, including some conference or the other. But I never go to Rajasthan for family reasons, because I don't have family. 120 years is a long time. But if somebody talks to me about Rajasthan, I will always say something nice. If somebody mentions something negative also, I will say, bhai, ami jani na. Maybe it is so, maybe it is not. But I would try to give the benefit of the doubt ki theek hi hobe. And the only reason I do that is because somewhere our family was born and brought up there, and somewhere we got a legacy from there. Whereas when I meet many of my friends who have gone from Calcutta to Delhi, some of them overseas, Baba je bhave ora galagal daye, I am quite shocked. I say, bhai, তুই এখানে পড়েছিস, আমরা সব সঙ্গে এখানে পড়াশোনা করেছি, এখন তুমি গিয়ে একটু ভালো করছো, at some big company you're working or you have set up some business. Why are you abusing the state? না না, তোমাদের ওখানে কিচ্ছু হবে না। আছে তোমাদের কেন, আমাদেরই তো আছে, তোমাদের কেন, এটা হঠাৎ করে তোমার হয়ে গেল, আমার নেই। This I find very disturbing. And it's not to say that we are an apostle of all virtues. We have our mistakes. But if this is our Janmabhumi, if this is the place that has nurtured us, if this is where we ancestrally belong to, I have a limited ancestral belonging, but still I have it because 120 years is not small. But there are others who have known no other place. They have been always born and brought up as a legacy from here. Then I think we owe it to have that kind of little respect for the land. And if we all do that, we will have a magical transformation in the way the world perceives us.
Absolutely. Rightfully said so.
So we need to change the mindset of ourselves. And অনেক সময় আমরা নিন্দা করি, আরে এখানে আর কিছু হবে না, এই সব আছে, এই গোলমাল আছে, এটা আছে, ওটা আছে। অফকোর্স আছে, বাট আমাদের দেশে যে কোনো প্রান্তে যাবেন কিছু না কিছু গোলমাল তো আছেই। We work in 7-8 states. When I was in cement, I was working in 8-9 states of India. Will I say that there were no problems elsewhere? Of course, there were certain aspects where other states are far ahead. I have no debate about it. But having said that, we need to be very, very conscious, and I feel as young entrepreneurs, all of you should highlight our positive and try to underplay our negative. That is very important, because if we don't fully believe in where we are working, then it is very difficult to convince other investors to come and participate.
পজিটিভ এনার্জি যেটা মিস্টার নেওটিয়া বললেন, তবে আপনাকে একটা বলি, আপনি যেমন বললেন এখন যে মারওয়াড়িদের মধ্যে এখন অনেক কমে যাচ্ছে এই বন্ডিংটা, কিন্তু আমি প্রাউডলি অ্যাজ আ বাঙালি এখানে বসে বলছি, আপনি এরকম একটা এই যখন দেখছেন এত বাঙালি এন্টারপ্রেনার বসে আমরা এরকম একটা ফোরাম ফর্ম করেছি, উই আর ইউনাইটিং টুডে, ইউ নো, অ্যাজ বেঙ্গলিজ উই আর ইউনাইটিং টুডে, সো আই থিঙ্ক উই ওয়ান্ট টু গো অ্যাহেড। তো আজকে বাংলার পিছিয়ে নেই, বাঙালি এন্টারপ্রেনার। আমি জানি না আপনি এরকম কোনো ইভেন্টে আগে গেছেন কিনা যেখানে আপনি একই ফ্লোরের মধ্যে এতগুলো বাঙালি এন্টারপ্রেনারকে দেখেছেন যারা সবাইকে হেল্প করছে, গাইড করছে, ব্যবসা দিচ্ছে আর এগিয়ে নিয়ে যাওয়ার চেষ্টা করছে।
This is phenomenal. In fact, আমি আপনাদের সম্পর্কে শুনেছি, আপনাদের মাঝখানে যাওয়ার সুযোগ হয়নি, but I had heard about it some years ago, and it's fantastic that all of you are helping and cooperating and inspiring each other. That's the way to go, and this will definitely transform our state. I say it as a deeply emotional Kolkata resident, as a what may I say, domiciled Bengali, or my father used to call himself a vegetarian Bengali or na mach khawa Bengali. If there's anything called, if there is anything called a non-fish eating Bengali, that's what we are. But it's really very important that we all bond together, help each other, more than anything else, speak well of our state. That's very important, particularly when we are in forums. This kind of forum or forums where we talk to other counterparts.
আপনারা নন ফিশি বেঙ্গলি, কিন্তু আমরা ম্যাক্সিমাম ফিশি বেঙ্গলি, বাট উই আর গুড ফিশি বেঙ্গলিজ। That brings me to the next question. আপনি যদিও বললেন, যেমন আপনি বললেন আপনার মেয়ে is going into another line and আপনার ছেলে আপনার ব্যবসায় আসছে। এখানে এরকম অনেক ফ্যামিলি আছে যারা ফ্যামিলি রান বিজনেস। এখন আমরা দেখতে পাচ্ছি যে নেক্সট জেনারেশন generally doesn't want to come to this business. They have their different aspirations, they have their different ideas. So what would be ইয়োর ইয়ে তাহলে এই যে ব্যবসাগুলো যারা এত বছর ধরে, অনেকের এখানে 100 বছরের ব্যবসা আছে, 75 বছরের ব্যবসা আছে, তো তাদের নেক্সট জেনারেশন যদি না আসে, মানে হোয়াট ডু ইউ থিঙ্ক দ্যাট হাউ ডাজ ইট গো অ্যাহেড?
See, today businesses have become extremely competitive. You need a high level of passion and a high level of interest in that activity to make a success. Merely being an owner of a business is no guarantee for its success. That is only an opportunity. যে আপনার মালিকানা আছে, আপনার বাবা or grandfather, somebody set it up. It takes only a few years for a business to completely go down, as much as it also takes only a few years for remarkable things to happen. So the life cycle of mortality of a business is very, very high. I would not say that যেহেতু একটা পরিবারের মধ্যে আছে, it has to necessarily move in that direction. Because if for any reason the next generation has interest in something else, he will not do a good job in something that he is not interested in. So it is most important that everybody tries to find their own ikigai. You know, this is a famous Japanese word that many of you would have heard of, and you can look it up. It has a very beautiful way of defining what is ikigai. And each person has to find their ikigai. There is no prescription for it. There is no formula that somebody can give you for it. If you have that ikigai which matches, like when my son returned from his MBA and we had these 3 businesses, first I asked him, I said, would you like to work elsewhere or would you like to work in our business? So he said, I'd like to work in our business. I said, okay, which business would you like to work in? He chose healthcare. So I said, fine. And I'm happy that he has found some high level of interest in that so far. It's early days because it's just been a year, so I want to keep my fingers crossed. But God willing, he'll find his way in that. It's very, very important. If you don't find that interest, আমার মনে হয় ওই ব্যবসাটাকে প্রফেশনালি হাতে তুলে দেওয়া, you give inheritance to your children, but certainly don't give management if the interest is not there.
So passion is most important. As you are saying, if you don't like to do that job, whatever you do, you will not be able to succeed. So diversification, যেটা আপনি আপনার বিজনেসেও করেছেন, আপনি বললেন আপনাদের family business was something else, you got into real estate, and I think now you're into hospitality, you're into education, so সব different. But আমরা যে আগেকার কালে বলতাম যে you should stick to your strong points, stick to what you know best. তো এই যে এতগুলো ডাইভার্সিফিকেশন করলে কি জিনিসটা ডাইলিউট হয়ে যায়, নাকি যার যেরকম পছন্দ সেরকম করলে সে বেটার করতে পারে? আর যে ফ্যামিলি বিজনেসটা, তারা কিরকম ভাবে গাইডেন্সটা দিতে পারে তার জন্য?
দেখুন, it's an era of specialization, and if you can focus your energy in doing one or two things, you will definitely be better off. আমাদেরও যদি আপনি দেখেন, আমরা বেসিক্যালি 3টা ব্যবসায় আছি: রিয়েল এস্টেট, healthcare and hospitality. We are definitely there in education, but that is not a ব্যবসা, that is under the guidelines, it's a trust, so it's a not-for-profit initiative. So ওটা আমরা এক সেকেন্ডের জন্য বাদ দিচ্ছি, because that philosophy of running the education is very different than the running the other 3 businesses. If you see, one aspect is common to all 3, which is the real estate aspect. In all of the 3 cases, you have to buy the land, you have to make a building. The only difference is that in real estate, you make it and sell it, and in the other 2, you make it and you operate it. One as a hospital, one as a hotel. In the hotel business, we have been partnering with Taj in most of our bigger projects. So even the management piece is not with us. So we are making the hotel, but we are giving it over for management. So essentially, we are managing 2 businesses. One is the healthcare business and one is the real estate business, which I think is possible to do. It is a bit of a stretch, but I think there's a lot of commonality, therefore you can manage it.
So you are saying too much of diversity is not required. However, you can take branches, small branches, which is associated with your main core business. Shubhashish has given me one more question, which I should ask you. You are a spiritual person, you're a religious person, and most of the Marwaris we see do a lot of Ganesh Puja, Lakshmi Puja on a regular basis. So, as per him, do you think Marwaris have got Ma Lokhir beshi ashirwad ache? Tai jodi apnar beshi paisa kaman, eram kono ব্যাপার আছে?
I definitely am a spiritual person, but I'm not a religious person, and I would like to define the difference between the two. I'm religious in the sense that I'm proud of being a Hindu, and I am happy to follow some of the religious rituals that my family prescribes as a activity that we must undertake. But that I go temple hopping or I am deeply sort of sitting and doing puja every day, that's not how I look at it. I think for us, for each one of us, connecting with the Almighty in some manner is important, and we do it in our own way. Sometimes we do it silently through meditation, sometimes in any other way. But coming to the spirituality, it's about the way of life. It's what our Sanatan Dharma teaches us. And Sanatan Dharma is not about only Hindus, it's about a way of life for anybody. Because there is a certain philosophy under which all of us live. There is a theory. Now you may say whether a particular religion subscribes to that theory or not. I would generally feel that while we may think some things are chaotic, such a big cosmos cannot be operating if there were no laws that govern it. And there is so-called a method in the badness that sometimes looks to our eyes, that eki paglami hocche, but actually there is a method to it. And spirituality is about discovering this method. It's about realizing this method and connecting your daily energy with that higher energy so that you are in a state of bliss. See, we'll all face problems. The question is not the problems. The question is how you react to the problem. Actually, you should not react to the problem. You should respond to the problem. Reaction is a negative statement. It means that amake oke harate hobe. But when a problem comes, you have to respond to it by understanding je keno holo eta. Ar tarpore amar ki response howa uchit. It's important that we are happy every moment of what we do. And it's also very important, I have read somewhere and I've internalized that, is that if we believe that one thing that we all know, there are two truths. One, that we were born without our permission. I'm sure nobody sought your permission to make you be born wherever you were born. And the second truth is that you will die without your permission. You're not going to give permission. It will happen any moment, anyhow, and you don't know when it will happen. If these two truths define our life, then what is there to get so anxious about in the middle? Because we try to define everything when we have the biggest lack of definition in that one idea called death. We don't know when it will happen. It can happen the next moment, the next day, the next month, the next year. And therefore, if you plan your life in such a way or think about it in such a way that today is the last day of your life, then deeply think, would you ever tell a lie if it's the last day? What is there to tell a lie for? Will you ever cheat or deceive anyone if today is the last day? Will you be unkind to anyone? And if you can just think of this one thing and say that, listen, boss, life is too short. Let's be happy, let's make people happy. Let's do what we think is the right thing to do. Sometimes we'll make a mistake, but let's be conscious of it. And if we are do that, that to me is a spiritual way of existence. It's not a religious way, but certainly is a spiritual way.
Great. So there's no perfect beginning, there's no perfect end. It's the journey that matters, so enjoy the journey. It's so nice to know the man, the industrialist, the veteran entrepreneur, being such a spiritual person. What is your last word for the entrepreneurs, young entrepreneurs sitting here, for the students sitting here, and for the recognized business houses who are sitting there? Three different thought process for these three different people, or the same thought process for everybody?
Well, one is, there's that famous rap song, na, Apna time aayega. I don't know the word exactly. I think India's time has come in a way that probably for many centuries we haven't seen. And we are lucky that we are still around to witness this magical transformation that will happen in our nation. And this is not to do with politics, it's just to do with the circumstances that we have found ourselves in. And I will explain this to you in 3-4 basic points. One is the geopolitics of the world. Being the largest democracy, and democracy being a very, very important way of understanding public mood, there is a tremendous amount of respect that India is gaining, that we are able to manage our chaotic democracy with so much of positivity. China has been losing its sheen because of one of the biggest reasons is that it is opaque and we don't know exactly what is going on. We see some of the miraculous successes, but we don't know where the fault lines lie. In India, the fault lines are also bare open. As much as our successes may have taken time, but they are more sustainable because the fault lines are known. So this is one. Number two, the convergence of our economic growth, the fact that we are soon going to be a $5 trillion economy, we are already the 5th largest economy, we have this huge growing middle class and upper middle class, we have such a large number of people having disposable income, which we can see in consumption happening. All of this is leading to a phenomenal windfall in business opportunities that all of us are engaged in. Then we have a civilizational moment where various activities that have been happening over the country in the last few decades, I would say, but mostly in the last 1 decade, has been converging to creating a sense of pride of being Indian, and this is now being seen as a celebration of sorts all over the world. And finally, I would say that it's a moment when all these factors are converging and we are able to get the benefit and reach the benefit because of the phenomenal digital stack that the country has been able to put. In fact, we have leapfrogged technology. Today, the technology platform in India is probably better than the best developed countries in the world. I wouldn't imagine 2 years ago if people told me that the last villager of India will be inoculated by a vaccine and he will have a digital record of it and he will have a digital footprint to know that he was inoculated. It looked to me to be a dream. When we put up the digital stack and payment systems and we see the kind of payments that are happening digitally, with such a large number of people who are still relatively not so literate, we realize that somewhere the innate intelligence of the human being has been harnessed. Even the formal education is not there, but his digital education he has been able to get somehow. It seems to me to be quite miraculous what has happened. All of which is leading to a huge, I would say, multiplier in business opportunity. So putting all this together, I think the time for India has arrived, and the next 10, 20, 30 years will be absolutely phenomenal in terms of our growth. Of course, some of the geopolitics can spoil the party, but we still are fairly insulated because we have a very robust domestic economy. So that's the first point. And the second point which I wish to share with all of you is that no matter what is the opportunity, there are a few things we have to do. We have to work hard. There is no substitute to it. No matter who you are, well-to-do, not so well-to-do, hard work is very essential. We have to work with tremendous commitment and passion, and we have to have a great sense of integrity. Ultimately, trust is what you sell. If all of you who have built these legacy businesses running over hundreds of years, whether it is a umbrella, whether it's a sweet shop, whether it is anything, a chemical, and people are talking about it, it is because there is embedded in that name trust. And we must be very conscious that it is difficult to build trust, very easy to destroy it. So we must nurture trust in a very, very deep way.
So this is the point, apna time aa gaya hai. This is the time for India, this is the time for Bengal. However, with that, we have to also understand that hard work has to be done. You can get, Sachin Tendulkar was born with a lot of ability, but if he wouldn't have practiced, I don't think he would have reached where he has reached today. Now I would like to open the floor for a few questions. If any of one of you has any questions for Mr. Neotia, you can please ask. And before asking a question, kindly tell your name, your company's name, and the brand that you are promoting or you're doing. So if anybody has a question for Mr. Neotia, it's open for the floor now.
Good evening, sir. My name is Abhishek Banerjee. I run a company called Bengal Building Solutions Private Limited. We are trying to build a manufacturing company in the construction chemical space. So in fact, our products have gone to a lot of projects of yours as well. So my question was, I got very interested with how you forged a relationship with the government in the initial stages and got a JV done, which had promoted your growth in the initial phases. So I would like you to shed some light on that matter, whether the government is still interested in some upcoming businesses in real estate or manufacturing, and is there any possibilities or probably the way to go in that regard?
See, that was an era when we are talking of 30 years ago. That was an era when the PPP model was extremely popular and was gaining traction. I think as times have changed, today governments are increasingly feeling, and I think rightly so, that they should concentrate on the bigger issues of policy, law and order, international affairs and things, and leave the businesses to businesses. So this era of PPP is gradually fading away. So either you are doing, government is doing whatever they are doing, or they're leaving private sector to do. So I think situation has changed in 30 years. Having said that, we were, at that time, this initiative was not taken by us. The initiative came from the government. We just participated, and we participated, I can say for myself, just out of curiosity. I had no idea what I was getting into. In fact, when we did sign the MOU, I had a lot of trepidation because I was told that 50% of the housing has to be done for low and middle income housing, for which the government would stipulate the price and it would be on a cross subsidy. And I said, oh my God, how am I going to fund this, and what happens if there are losses? So it wasn't that easy, but it worked out, and so we are here sharing the success of it, but it could have just slipped away into a problem. Fortunately, it didn't. Going forward, I think the chances of joint sectors will be much less because that's now the general policy of all governments.
Good evening, sir. I'm Shomojit. I run a company called WealthApp. Thank you so much for coming here. I have a simple question, sir. In the hospitality segment that you have done such a great work, where do you see West Bengal going in as compared to, we see that, groups from other states are coming and taking over our hospitals. What is your view
Hospitality or healthcare?
of healthcare, sir?
Okay.
Our, as you know, there are a lot of interest we see from other hospital chains to come into West Bengal. In that regard, where do you see our entrepreneurs, especially your group, in the healthcare segment?
So, at the moment, we are a relatively small player, but we are definitely focused on Bengal, and we have 5 hospitals under construction, of which 3 of them are in Bengal, and 2 of them are, one is in Guwahati and one is in Raipur, in Chhattisgarh. So one is of the 3, one is in Calcutta, one is in Siliguri, and one is in Durgapur. So we definitely will be expanding. I think the reason why there is a lot of interest in Bengal is simply because we have some of the most talented doctors here. And gradually the city is getting known for good infrastructure for healthcare and good connectivity from various parts of India. So, earlier when you would hear of serious ailments, people would run to South India. A lot of people are now thinking of coming to Calcutta, which is a very good news. Entrepreneurs who want to be in this sector. One thing I must say about the healthcare sector, it is sensitive. It is sensitive because you're dealing with someone's life. And while you have to look at it as a commercial enterprise, you also have to be sensitive to the fact that you're dealing with people in distress. I run 2 opposite businesses. Nobody comes to my hotels who is in distress. He comes there because he's in a state of joy. Nobody comes to my hospital because he wants to come to the hospital. He comes there because he's forced to come there, because there is some problem. And we have 2 very different, distinct emotions to deal with. And it's a very different way of looking at it. You have to have a lot of empathy. It is not to take away from the fact that it can't be good business, but it has to be business with a conscience. So as long as you do that, then you are probably able to serve society and also feel good about it. Otherwise, you can feel that you have not done what is the right thing to do.
Good evening, sir. Very good evening. My name is Pratik Chandra. I am from Mukhorochok. I am the 4th generation in this company. My father is sitting over here. So we just completed 75 years this year. I thank you so much for this enriching session that we had tonight, and it was really great listening to you and your experiences. তো আমার একটা প্রশ্ন আছে আপনার কাছে, একটু different. What happens is that at times we work very hard with all our passion, all our heart out, everything, but the outcome that we get is not up to the mark or what we are expecting. So at times we feel a bit down or something like that. So in this case, what do you think? What is the most important thing? That the process that we are continuing in the manner which we are working, or the outcome that we are expecting? What is more important? Because if you feel down and আপনার যদি মনে হয় যে না সেই জিনিসটা ঠিকমতো হচ্ছে না বা একটু হয়তো মোটিভেশনালি সেই দিক থেকে না আসে জিনিসটা, তো হোয়াট ইজ দ্য মোস্ট ইম্পর্টেন্ট থিং, যে যেই প্রসেসটা আমরা কাজ করছি সেইটা নাকি যেটা আউটকামটা এক্সপেক্ট করছি সেইটা? তো এটা যদি আপনি একটু লাইট থ্রো করেন।
এটা তো আমার কিছু বলার নেই, ভগবান শ্রীকৃষ্ণ বলে গেছেন ভগবদ গীতাতে, ওটাই লাস্ট ওয়ার্ড। বাট লেট মি টেল ইউ a story that has remained in my mind and which kind of summarizes a response to your question. I was listening long back to an old recording of an interview of Mr. Raj Kapoor, the famous filmmaker. And he was asked this question by the anchor that, please tell me which is the film that is your favorite. It is very difficult, everyone will say the same thing, very difficult to say all of them are like little children, etc. He was pushed by the anchor, so he said, my favorite film in some way is Mera Naam Joker. So the anchor said, Okay, and he said, why do you say that? He said, well, 2-3 reasons. One is it's a bit autobiographical, so there is a bit of my story in it. Second, I have, those days, that was probably the first time they did a full color film. Those days he got a whole troupe of these circus people from Russia to come to India to perform. So it was a very expensive film, so his most expensive film. And he put his heart and soul in that film. Then the next question the anchor asked, what is your biggest flop of your life? He said, Mera Naam Joker. Then the next question was, which is the film where you put in the least effort and you didn't think you did a great job? And to my surprise, he said, Bobby. And so the anchor said, that's been such a big hit, why do you say that? He says, if you remember, Bobby came just right after Mera Naam Joker. And because Kapoor Khandan में एक रिवाज है कि father launches the son, my son Chintu had just returned and I had to launch him. And I was broke because I had lost all the money. Distributors were not willing to take up the film. So on a shoestring budget, that's why I couldn't get a good a known film actress. That's why we got Dimple. And Premnath is his brother-in-law. Aruna Irani was a long-time friend. So if you see, he gave a whole list of the star cast. He said all of them acted for free because they were all friends of mine or relatives of mine. And his wife, Krishna Kapoor, was asked to do the dress designing and something else for the first time. She also contributed to the film because he didn't have money to pay for that. And then he said it turned out to be the biggest hit of his life. So Raj Kapoor then said, he said, देखिए, यही है जीवन का मजेदार रहस्य. कोई जरूरी नहीं है कि जिस पर आपने पूरा जीवन, पूरा समय, पूरी परिश्रम, सब कुछ लगाया, वो वही कामयाबी देगा. वो उसमें एक कोई एक्स फैक्टर होता है जो ईश्वर ही जानता है. And you cannot really answer this question because I made the least effort with Bobby and I got the maximum return. Till today, Bobby is a huge grosser for the RK films. Whereas today, Mera Naam Joker has surpassed Bobby, incidentally. But that is much after he died. Today, the collections of Mera Naam Joker's rights are higher than Bobby. But that is 40 years later, 50 years later. So this is the story. Sometimes when you make a classic like that, you may get reward much, much later. It doesn't take away the value of the classic. When I heard another interview of Randhir Kapoor, he said R.K. Banner's single biggest grosser is Mera Naam Joker today. So if you do a good job, you will get rewarded one day. Maybe you will not live to see it. I am a great fan and follower of Walt Disney. When Walt Disney died, his brother Roy Disney was wondering, how will I run this empire? He was broke because this man had no idea about money. He used to only have these great dreams of building these amazing projects. And he said, Roy Disney, I think, wrote somewhere, he said that my brother was such a maniac of dreaming that to feed his dreams, we had to borrow money all over the place. And he would get obsessed and he'd say, you find the money. But look what they created. Of course, when he died, Disney was almost broke. But today it's one of the world's richest companies. So I think, money is a factor of so many things. And Goddess Lakshmi's benign smile, when it will come, when it will not come. I think the less we bother about it, the better. Let's do what we can do and let's leave it for the lady to smile when she wants to.
So I think that answers Pratik's question. It's all about your hard work. The results, you never know what's going to come.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
Hello, good evening, sir. My name is Arindita Mojumdar. I am a fourth semester MBA student from University of Calcutta. So, sir, my question is that I am coming from a very normal family background with very less or no exposure to business. So, for students like us, what do you think that we need to focus on what kind of skill sets or competencies, which we need to develop what kind of skill sets or competencies in regarding to the business domain?
See, my dear, this is a very difficult question. I cannot give you a good answer to this because there is an area of business opportunity in almost anything that you can see, and yet it is like being on a ship with water all around, water everywhere, but not a drop to drink. You have to figure this out. Nobody can really help you. Where you find that, okay, I find this to be something exciting, you must bring value to the table. When we do a project, what are we trying to do? Of course, anyone can make a building on a land, and you're trying to make a difference. You're trying to make a statement of a lifestyle. You have to find that one particular idea that is likely to find interest in people, and it is going to leave you with some surplus. It's easy to say it, it's not so easy to do. But funnily enough, if you think deep enough, you will find that answer. I'm sorry, I'm not being able to be very helpful, but I cannot be very helpful on this one.
Yeah, I think you told very clearly that you need to bring value to whatever proposition you have, and then you got to try it out. If it has value, I'm sure money will follow. Anybody else? Do we have another question? Shubhodip.
নমস্কার, আমি শুভদীপ রায়, বেঙ্গল জুয়েলারি থেকে। ইভেন আপনাদের CC2-তেও আমার প্রেজেন্স আছে। আমার একটা খুব ফানি কোয়েশ্চেন ছিল। আপনি
ভালো একটা ফানি কোয়েশ্চেনই হোক।
সবাই তো ব্যবসা করছে, তা আমরা যখন কলকাতায় বাংলায় বসে রয়েছি, তা আপনি বাঙালি 120 বছর ধরে এখানে রয়েছেন, নো ডাউট অ্যাবাউট ইট। তা ইস্ট বেঙ্গল না মোহনবাগান?
কালকেই ডার্বি আছে কিন্তু বেরে বলুন।
ISL, কাল ISL।
দেখুন, আমরা তো
এটা কিন্তু পার্সিয়ালিটি করলে চলবে না।
আমার খুব ফুটবল সেভাবে ফলো করা হয়নি সত্যি বলতে গেলে। I have been more into cricket and tennis, but having said that, we were involved for a while in ATK. My father and uncle, who were deep fans of football in Bengal, and they would go to watch it also in the Maidan, were Mohun Bagan supporters.
Fantastic. So we have got a good go for Mohun Bagan.
Mohun Bagan. Thank you.
Do we have any more questions?
Yeah, hi. Good evening, Mr.
I have
Neotia.
so many hands coming up. Okay. Shubhashis,
I had
out
the
of time or are we in time? Three more
had,
questions? Okay, fine.
I had the mic, so I'll go for it. Hi, I'm Rishabh from Days Medical. Keo Karpin is one of our pioneer brands. So my question to you is, you spoke very elaborately about the opportunities that and the India story. How about the threats? The threats that are looming large, the threats that we should be aware of?
So, the threat to India's story will only come from geopolitics, which is totally out of our control. If the war in Israel or the war in Ukraine spreads or skids out of control, if there is some adventurism of China trying to gobble up Taiwan and America getting hostile, and that leads to a conflagration of some kind. These are very, very big issues which really we have no control, and I suppose it leaves us to a tremendous amount of cause of concern. But having said that, since it is very difficult to calculate it or even to put some sort of idea to it, we have to leave it in the realm that you have to just hope that nothing like that will happen. But within the country, I don't see any serious challenge. I mean, there will be hiccups here and there will be small issues, but I don't see a big issue.
Yes, anybody else? Or Shovik?
Good evening. This is Shavik Sabui from Pagoda Group. I am into elevator manufacturing and installations. We have our own elevator manufacturing company. It's been a sheer honor to see you and the dais. I'm really grateful to Bengal Business Council to arrange a fantastic this program. So very inspiring. So it's a very straight question to you, actually, being a family business. I'm into the second generation. Sir, I want to ask you that stepping into family business, how do you tackle the thought process with your senior management team as you have inherited or you have started off your own verticals? And how have you convinced your senior management when you want to do some innovation in your company? I mean, I am also in the second generation. Sometimes, I have come from the St. Xavier's College, and thank you see you as a variant in front of me. So I always find sometimes difficult when I get into this, some innovations I wanted to do. So I want to ask you that how have you tackled
So
it?
you're not alone. I think there is a resistance to change everywhere. When you create an open culture in your company, you allow a free exchange of ideas in a non-threatening atmosphere. You allow people to share their views, and then you share your views, and finally let the best view prevail. It should not be driven by an ego that just because you happen to be the owner or the senior most person, let the best idea win,
Sure.
not the senior most person win. If you take that as the principle, that we are having a debate on ideas, and the ideas primacy is important, not the person who's speaking it.
Correct.
Sometimes the idea can come from the junior most person participating.
Yes.
So if we have that kind of culture and people see that occasionally some of the good ideas of junior people are also accepted, then people start saying, okay, it is not about being thrust down with an idea. It's a way that we are participating, and let the best idea win.
Yes, sir. Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, so we have one more question. I think this is the last question we should take.
Is it? All right. Good evening, Mr. Neotia. First and foremost, thank you for a very intriguing session. I have a question which is not really centric to business. And as it is expected from a lawyer, I'm going to ask something else altogether. I picked up one line which you said, very interesting, wherein you said that it's a matter of choice, where you promote, patronize art and culture. I think my compliments to you and Madhuji for doing a fantastic thing. But my question is on these lines, that to what extent is it a matter of obligation for the ones who hold the capital in their hands, vis-a-vis the choice of patronizing? So my question is essentially obligation versus choice in patronizing art and culture. To what extent is it a responsibility for businessmen to shape the culture in which we live?
See, the areas that require attention is not just art and culture. There are hundreds of areas. There are areas in healthcare, there's areas in education, there's areas in social awareness, environment, etc., etc. I think all of us who are in a commercial enterprise, we have an obligation towards some contribution beyond our day-to-day activity or business. That activity that we may want to pursue need not be culture and art. We have chosen that because that's where our interest lies. There are people who do it in healthcare, there are people who do it in education of the poor, they do it in other philanthropic activities. So you choose whichever way. If you say, should we as businessmen do something more than just doing business? Yes. But what you will do should also depend on where you get motivated. There is a friend of mine whose wife is involved with teaching street children. I think that's a very laudable exercise. I've been there. There's another friend of mine whose wife gives free food in one area of Calcutta every day, and she supervises that, and she's almost there 3 days a week at least to see the distribution of free food. Fine. I wouldn't say that that's any less important than patronizing art or culture or something else. So whatever you wish to do and whatever you have the capacity to do.
Thank you so much. Okay, I think people are not going to leave you today. There's more hands coming up, but I can take only last 2 questions, please. Yeah.
Sir, thank you for the wonderful session. My name is Vivek. I run a software company called Grey Matter Technologies. Since you worked for such a long duration with the government of West Bengal, you see, other states have been instrumental in giving large IT projects to people like us. So also, you must have experienced it. And but our state, I mean, you've worked so many years with them. So what are their plans? Because unless the government comes up with some sort of a, funding, I'm not saying funding, but gives a work, then only there'll be an IT boom, and then that is the only way I think the state can come up. I mean, with your long experience with the government of West Bengal especially, you think they have some plans to invest?
So, the less we depend on government for funding businesses, the better it is for all of us, because they have many priorities, and I'm thankfully not having to bear that burden, but they live in a very difficult situation. They have so many social aspects that they have to take care of, which only government can do. The various welfare schemes, the various infrastructure projects, that they are not interfering with the business is the best thing we can expect from them, and we should expect from them. They should not come and create trouble for us. That's about the only thing that we should want. That they will give us business, yes, if they are buying something, for instance, if they are buying a particular medicine or they are buying something, they should tender and give everyone an opportunity to participate, including your software company. But if they don't need it or if they don't want it, then I suppose we should let it be. We should find our business outside, because the government has too many priorities that none of us are willing to share that responsibility. We cannot provide education in every village of India. We cannot do it. So they have to do it. We have to bring the literacy up. We have to arrange food for our poorer people. We have to arrange healthcare for them. These are priorities where I think the government probably has to do much, much more. So they have too many challenges of their own. I don't have that responsibility, but I see it when I'm in a discussion at times, and I know that it's a pretty difficult job to balance the account and do all that stuff.
Okay. Right, thank you.
I think I'll take the last question from Honorgo from Anjali Jewelers. So we are, I think, already... Who? Ashwani Laboda is also there. Okay, 2 questions. Final 2 questions, please.
Good evening, everyone, and good evening, Mr. Neotia. I'm not here to ask any question. I'm just here to thank you because, as we all know, that you've gifted our Kolkata city center. But the reason why I want to thank you is that you had involved the late Charles Correa. Now, the importance of having Charles Correa do a project in our city goes a long way, because a lot of young architects, in fact, when I speak with my architect, he considers Charles Correa as his guru. And I always wanted to actually tell this to you, but I've never had this opportunity. I've also, we have a place in Uttarayan, in Shiliguri, where you were a part of it, and it was with Lakshmi Group. You always inspired me, and my field of work is completely different from yours, but I really feel very inspired, and I've seen that whenever you do something which is completely out of the box. And I've been to Swabhumi. I've, in fact, done a photo shoot over there for one of my campaigns. I really, really wanted to thank you for this because what you've done goes a long way because something like a city center will always be here. As long as city center is here, Charles Korea will be remembered in the city. So I will request you that in future when you do any other big project, to include someone of a stature of Mr. Korea, late Korea, so that the city is remembered for architecture through a person like you. In fact, your earlier project was, I think, through Mr. Balakrishnan, who's again a very renowned architect.
Yeah, in fact, he's the Pritzker Prize awardee.
Yes.
And he also got the Padma Vibhushan.
Yes, so exactly that's what I'm trying to say. So, my friends here, what I'm trying to actually say is, we all do our businesses. In fact, there are a lot of other realtors in the city, we know, like Merlin, PS Group. But why I look up to this man is because he's done things differently and he's inspired someone like me. I mean, I was in school when City Center happened and I was much younger when your Uttara, I'm sorry, I'm forgetting the name, which you did with on Bypass, which was the first big project. Udita, sorry, yeah. So I've been inspired from the time when I was probably 14, 15, 13. So thank you so much. Thank you for giving us this.
Appreciate. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Thanks, Amigo. Anil Aboda, the last question to you, please.
Harji, নমস্কার অনিল বাবু আমি অ্যাকচুয়ালি একটাই কোশ্চেন আপনাকে করার যেটা হচ্ছে যে স্পেশালি হচ্ছে যে since Parama Neotia is now directing the film and you also being a part of this industry, you also know the size of the business. So do you have any, have you heard, have you actually thought anything about the Bengali film industry? কিছু ভাবনা আছে আপনার মনে বা how the single screen, these single screens are all closed these days?
দেখুন, আমার involvement with Bengali film industry has two aspects. I have been a great follower of Bengali film since my childhood, and I continue to watch a lot of Bengali films, so that as a patron or as a supporter, I am deeply involved. I think they have a very fine aesthetic, and they do a great job in the quality of films, at least some of them. My other is that I happen to be the father of a daughter who is a filmmaker, so I'm just silently supporting her. But if you ask me about the business of filmmaking, I have no clue. I am supporting her from a creative space, not from a business space. Later on, if she wants to make it into a business, I will definitely guide her. But at the moment, she is coming to it from a creative space. She's a writer, she's a director. She's also involved deeply with the music. So that's her interest. I don't think she wants to set up, to the best of my understanding, at least at now, a production house. She wants to do films. And if she will make initially 1 or 2 or 3 films, I will, as a father, support her to make those films. But after that, I hope that other people will also support her. And she will work just like a creative person works in any film. Maybe at some point when that situation comes and she thinks that she has the confidence to run a business of filmmaking, we can look at it. But that is far away, I think, certainly not for the next 5 years.
I just got another question, just one more question. I think you are going to participate in the Bengal Premier League as a franchise owner, as I heard from some sources. I don't know. But why you came out from the sports industry, even sports investment?
See, তুমি তো ভালো করে জানো ওটা একটা অ্যাক্সিডেন্টাল ইন্টারেস্ট হয়েছিল, দাদার সঙ্গে কথা হয়েছিল, তারপরে ওই আইএসএল এ ঢুকে পড়েছিলাম. It's a very high investment game and it requires a brand which can take advantage of that kind of investment. That's why we divested our interest in favor of Sanjeev Goenkaji. I still have a token 1% involvement, that's just for sentimental reasons. But essentially, it is not something that I think our brand can afford as a loss-making proposition. I've never looked at sports as a business. I looked at it from a point of view that break-even holi cholbe. But we realized that it is going to take very long, if at all, break-even hobe ki hobe na. এবং it didn't at that time seem justified for me to make that kind of investment. So that's it.
Thank you very much. I think with this we come to the end of this fantastic session with this man who's so humble, so down to earth, in spite of having built up such an empire over the last 40 years. It was a pleasure to interact with you, Mr. Neotia, and thank you very much for being here from Calcutta University as well as Bengal Business Council. Do we have anything else to be done? Okay, so I would hand it over to you to take it forward.
Thank you, Mr. Neotia, for such an engaging and insightful conversation. Thank you for being here with us today. Thank you, Mr. Banerjee, for moderating this session so effortlessly. It has been such an honor. Thank you. A huge round of applause for the patience and the support.